let's talk about tuition payment plans. So maybe you and your student are trying to figure out how you can pay the bill that's due at the university. Well, for many students, this is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to receiving their higher education. It's figuring out how to pay for it. Luckily, many schools do offer an option called tuition payment plans. So this might be something that can help your family cash flow the payments of their tuition bill rather than having to take out student debt. In fact, this is one strategy that we've shown families in Debt-Free Degree Lab in our monthly membership program on how they can actually prolong their payments so that they don't have to front it and borrow a ton of money and pay a ton of interest. So in this video, I want to share what these tuition payment plans are, how a student can take advantage of them, and more importantly, when it is a good decision or not. Now, make sure you hit subscribe because every single week I'm releasing a new strategy that can hopefully help you get rid of that balance without even having to pay for it out of pocket. Hello, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System, where we redefine paying for college so that we can help families build a strong financial future rather than one that has tons of student loan debt. Now, we primarily focus on helping families secure scholarships, but in addition to that, there are so many strategies we can use, including tuition payment plans. If you're interested in learning about Debt-Free Degree Lab or the Scholarship System, you can find the links in the description below. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. College tuition payments are a strategy that could help students avoid costly expenses with student debt, including all the interest that builds up over years, et cetera, et cetera. We know that we don't want debt, and so if there's anything we can do to avoid it, here is one option. College tuition payment plans are an option to help students avoid those costly student loans. So this is something where basically a school can break down the tuition payment into monthly payments for a student during their academic year rather than requiring the entire amount up front, which might result in having to borrow that student debt, which of course leads to interest and decades of monthly loan payments, which we all want to avoid. These payment plans typically do not charge interest. However, of course, that is up to the school and the programs that they put in place. That is where a lot of the savings can happen. If your family can make a monthly payment throughout the semester in order to avoid having to borrow any kind of debt, that can be thousands of dollars saved on the total cost of college. Additionally, unlike student loans, payment plans typically do not require any kind of credit check. So if your student has already maxed out any kind of loans through the government, or maybe they just don't want to take out any debt at all, but yet they can't be approved for any kind of loans that are privately held because they don't have any credit score, then payment plans might be a great option if they can cash flow it. Now, an important aspect of payment plans is that they must be in place prior to the tuition being due. So this is not something where a student had to pay the tuition by last week and now we want to do the payment plan. In that case, then they might risk being dropped from their classes unless they're working with a financial aid office and there's some sort of prior agreement in place where they won't drop them from the classes. But typically, this is something where you need to reach out well before the due date for the payment in order to get it in place. The other reason you want to reach out ahead of time is actually that the earlier your student enrolls, the less they might have to pay up front. So for example, some schools will say, okay, by January 7th, you don't have to pay anything except for the sign-up fee, which I'll explain in just a moment. But if you enroll a week later, then you might have to pay a fourth of your tuition bill up front now, and then we'll payment plan the rest of it. So they incentivize families that are ahead of the game on this. So you want to make sure that you're reaching out to the financial aid department and taking advantage of this early if this is a strategy for you and your student. Now, comment below, did you know that payment plans at colleges were an option? Have you used one? Let me know your experience in the comments below. I love seeing just what kind of experiences families have with universities. And I think that this is one that a lot of families are not even aware of. So what are some of the drawbacks of payment plans? Well, first and foremost, they're typically not offered for summer. So if your student has a summer class that they need to take or a summer semester, typically there will not be a payment plan option there. Secondly, another drawback is that most schools will have a setup fee. So again, they don't charge interest, but a lot of them do charge an initial setup fee of anywhere from $20 to even $200 in order to get that set up. Now, this is usually non-refundable. Even if your student is no longer enrolled at the school, they still will not get that fee back from setting up the payment plan. Another drawback about payment plans is that if your student already has a balance, typically that will have to be paid off first before they can start a payment plan for the future semester. So you'll want to make sure that your student does not have any kind of outstanding balances in order to get this implemented for future semesters. Another drawback is that the funds are typically drawn automatically from the bank account on a specific date. So if your student is not good at money management, or if the account is typically on the lower end, you could run the risk of overdrawing, getting hit with any kind of fees, maybe even getting dropped from the classes because the tuition's not paid. So we want to make sure that if we do this, the account that it's being drawn from is well established and there are no worries about any kind of bounce payments. Now, another drawback about payment plans is once that amount is agreed to per month, typically that will not change. Even if, say, next semester your student is no longer taking out a meal plan or no longer living on campus, so housing is cheaper, that monthly payment amount typically will not change based on the expenses. The last drawback is that often these are only for tuition. So you might have to pay for room and board, books, supplies, whatever it is outside and beyond tuition. So that is something to keep in mind and prepare for if your student does not have the means to cover the rest of it outside of tuition. Now, I do want to mention that, again, like I said, we focus on helping families get scholarships for college, and this might be a great opportunity. If your student is willing to do the work to look into different strategies, then they might be able to apply for some outside scholarships and reduce the amount they even need to pay in the first place. So if you're curious on how we do that, how we've helped families do this and secure nearly $10 million, then I'm going to link to our free training in the description below. Make sure you take advantage of it. There should be a button somewhere here on the page as well. Take advantage of that free training because it'll show you exactly the steps that we take in order to get college paid for without having to borrow any kind of money. Let's talk about how to enroll. If this is something that you think is the right fit for your family, then typically you will have to sign up through a third-party provider. A lot of universities now have an arrangement with another company that handles these payment plans. You can find the information on the Bursar's office or the financial aid department's office's website. And when you do, you want to make sure that you're reviewing your payment options very carefully. So this is something like you want to make sure that you're aware of what the monthly amount is, what are the due dates, how frequently do we have to make these payments, are they monthly, are there any additional fees that you need to know about? What is the sign-up fee? Is it $20? Is it $200? That can be a big eye-opener if you're not expecting that. And then also you want to make sure that you know what can be included. Can you do a payment plan for books, supplies, room and board, or is it strictly only tuition? Once you find out all that information and you submit the application, also be prepared to submit that setup fee, that initial payment that we mentioned. So typically you can pay this with a bank card or even your credit card, but that is something that will be required right away. Now, if a student is approved, then this will be put onto their account. You'll see it in their login through the financial aid department. If you have any questions about payment plans, the best thing to do is to contact that financial aid department and really have them walk you through it, because you want to make sure that you and your student understand every little detail of this, since they are potentially signing up for years of these monthly payments in order to get through college, hopefully with as little debt as possible. So that said, I just want to give a quick story of a family where they were able to get a ton of outside scholarships and they just had a small balance left over for the school year. It was a few $1,000s. Now, they could have borrowed that because over 4 years, they would have been probably in about $15,000 of debt, which isn't terrible. But it is still debt that they have to pay interest on. And so instead, what this family did was they actually were able to cash flow it. So they were able to put aside enough savings every single month to just pay it month by month as their student was in school. And so they avoided those student loan payments. They avoided the interest payments, all by taking advantage of these tuition payment plans. So payment plans, they can be a great way to spread the cost of college throughout the entire semester, making it more affordable and hopefully avoiding that student loan payment. So in fact, if you have a student who has not chosen a school yet, you may want them to make sure that this is an option before they even decide on what school they're attending. I hope that this was helpful. Now, if you want more strategies to help pay for college without student debt, make sure you click subscribe because every single week I'm releasing a new strategy. In addition to that, again, don't forget about that free scholarship training linked down below because I will show you exactly how you and your student can build up a list of legitimate scholarships with less competition so that hopefully they don't even need a payment plan. All right, that's it for today. Thank you again. My name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System. I will see you in the next video.